So I've been making videos for over a year now, and I've noticed there's a lot of questions about sewing. Figured now would be a good time to come and answer some of those frequently asked questions that I've noticed in the comments. I have a whole list, and it looks like a lot, but it's just for reference because I tend to ramble. And I'll add in some beginner sewing tips for anyone new to the game or anyone who's taken interest or inspiration through my videos. There are so many different ways you can go about learning sewing and learning to make clothes or even starting a brand. Anything that I have to share with you guys is all self-taught from doing the research. The sponsor of today's video, Skillshare, have made the learning curve so much easier. If you've been watching my channel for a while now, you would already know that I've learned most of what I do by making things over and over and over again. Having the right guidance early on would have saved me so much time on trial and error, trying to figure things out for myself. And that's exactly where Skillshare plays their part. This is an online learning community with thousands of classes. And let me tell you, when they have everything, I mean they literally have everything. From sewing to pattern making, design to editing, photography, you name it, and they have the professional for it. I've watched several different classes on the Skillshare platform just to brush up on my own knowledge. Most notably, one that I've found a lot of value in, use sewing patterns like a pro. There are so many fundamentals that I've learned just from watching this one class that I would have skipped over entirely. If you're starting to make your own clothes, learning how to sew, or even just want to brush up on your creative skills, Skillshare is the perfect place to start. You will learn directly from real, successful, world-class creatives. And to make things even easier for you, the first 500 people to use my link in the description or scan this QR code will receive a 1-month free trial on the Skillshare platform. Thanks again to Skillshare for supporting the channel, and let's get back to the video. Some of you guys will already know that I'm working on a new borrow piece right now. What you're looking at right here is the final panel for this piece. This part right here is about a week and a half of work, making an effort to do tiny little stitches as opposed to my first attempt. I have layers upon layers on layers on layers. You can already assume that I'm investing a lot of time to make this sort of the best piece that I've made today. I'm very keen to share it with you because so far I think this is better than the last. I've been making videos for just over a year now, so let's talk about that. When I first started sharing my process and creative pursuits, I didn't really have a direction. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, especially on YouTube and content creation, that type of thing. And I've sort of had the realization that I genuinely want to be good at this. I've seen a lot of comments recently about you guys feeling inspired to learn how to sew. So I'm going to share some beginner sewing tips. I hope some of these are helpful to anyone new, just to help some of you guys pick up on a few things that I overlooked when I first began. Beginner tip number 1, always iron your fabric. Before cutting out materials that you actually need, it's important that you iron the fabric so everything is flat. This is something that I didn't do at first, mainly because laziness. But obviously when you're measuring and cutting materials, you want everything to be square. Ironing your fabrics before you cut them, before you use them, will 100% make all the more difference for being accurate and on point. Some of you might even think that that's an obvious one, but as a beginner, it might not be so obvious. Tip 2, familiarize yourself with needles and thread types. There are so many different needles out there. The needles differ in width, type of machine you can use it on, and type of material that you should be using it for. Just another thing that I didn't do to begin with. I ended up with a lot of broken needles because of this. And that goes the same with thread types as well. There's different threads for different situations, different fabrics. You want to make sure that you're using the right thread, the right needle, the right combination of both. Tip number 3 for all of those who are very new at sewing. The very first thing that I did when I first bought a sewing machine was practice straight lines on a scrap bit of fabric. This might seem like a waste of time because you're not actually making anything, but it's a machine. It's kind of just like driving a car. You don't really know how it feels until you give it a go. You need to get a grasp on how to control the fabric while you're sewing, how to get those straight lines. And I mean literally just going back and forth with a straight stitch. A lot of the time the machine does most of the work. You're kind of just like the support person. You still need to have some sort of an understanding on how the machine works and how you can make it work best for you. Tip number 4, this is kind of an important one. If you have a notebook, you want to write this down. You need to test your stitch tension every single time before you start working a new piece. Stitch tension varies depending on what material you're working with, and it will be different every time. Even if you're familiar with working with a certain type of material, it's still better and more convenient for you to test that stitch tension. This is going to ensure that you're getting the best and cleanest possible seams. The final tip I can offer you guys is don't skip pressing your seams. When you're sewing something together, whether it be 2 basic squares of fabric side by side, even sewing the outer seam of a pair of pants, pants, you want to press your seams. This is something that I not only looked over when I first began, but I also didn't realize it was a necessary part of the process. Simply ironing out where you've just sewn, whether it be pressing the seam allowance open, pressing it to one side. This makes for a huge noticeable difference when it comes to your finished piece of work. It takes your work from looking DIY and homemade to looking professional quality. If you haven't been pressing your seams, start pressing your seams. You will see the difference. Last week I made a post asking for any questions you might have to add into this video, so I'm going to go through some of them now while I'm stitching. What's the best way to learn to sew, stitch, and upcycle while still generating quality as a beginner? This is a good question. I think generating quality, especially as a beginner, that only comes with time and through practice. With some of the tips I shared before, there are definitely parts of the process you can sort of focus on to assist with, I guess, making a better quality product. Things like material and general craftsmanship play a big role. As a beginner, there are so many different learning curves you have to go through to understand what makes something quote unquote good quality. And a lot of that really comes down to trial and error. What I did personally when it came to learning to sew, learning to upcycle, I would go to a thrift store, buy a bunch of clothes for really cheap, pull them apart completely just to get a better understanding of how they may have been put together. When you familiarize yourself with how something is supposed to look, you can use that familiarization to your advantage and apply that in your own work. How did you get into sewing and making clothes? I wish there was more of an interesting answer for this question. I started following a few different upcycle artists, and just before COVID, I guess it was like the first time I was introduced to this sort of nuance in fashion where people are just doing it themselves, upcycling themselves, customizing, etc. It was simply the exposure of seeing these works from other artists that inspired me to give it a go myself. And it was during COVID where I had so much time on my hands. You know, we're all locked inside. We can't do anything. Purchased a sewing machine and just started upcycling ideas that I had from there. Did you study clothing production at a higher institution or taught yourself how to make garments? I think I said this before at the start of the video, but everything that I know and everything that I share is all self-taught. By no means am I an expert or a professional in this field, and there's still so much that I'm learning. It's a worldly known and versatile skill with so much information out there to teach yourself. I've never studied clothing production, fashion, or anything like that, even though those courses would have its benefits. I guess that really comes down to how you yourself best learn. Some people work best with a guide, with a teacher, but I personally enjoy the independence of finding information and doing the research myself. This last one here is actually 4 questions, and I'm only going to answer one. Please forgive me. This is a good one to ask. What is my least favorite thing about sewing? I think with any creative practice in the world, there are things to enjoy and there are things to dislike. My least favorite thing about sewing, how long it takes and the mess it makes. This used to really get on my nerves, is creating such a big mess of thread, scrap material, just kind of piled all around me. I aim to be relatively tidy and clean. You know, I don't like stuff on the floor. I spend a day hand stitching, for example, and the amount of like little fibers, pieces of fabric lying everywhere. I've already vacuumed today and I've been here stitching for an hour. I need to vacuum again. And the way it's so easy to lose track of time when you've sunk yourself deep into a project. Sometimes I just don't enjoy how long one thing can take. Thank you guys for asking those questions as well. I'm sorry that I didn't get around to all of them. I think it's really cool to share the journey with you guys and show you what I've been up to, show you what I'm working on. You guys are showing up every time interested and well invested in my work, which is mind-blowing to me, but I appreciate it nonetheless. Reflecting over these last 12 months of creating both content creation and clothes, I feel like I've really found something that I find important enough to pursue, to want to get better at, just expanding on what we've already done here and just making it bigger and better every single time. Be sure to check out the sponsor for today's video, Skillshare, and I'll see you guys very soon.